Okay, so welcome to the Fishing Factory's first project. This project we're going to be building a bamboo fishing rod. Now I have already done this project once before. I did it about 4 years ago for my final A-level project. So this is what I made for the A-level project all those years ago. Now if we start off with the reel, basically what I did with this is I just bought a simple cheap little, it was like £5 I think, cheap little reel. Took out all the stuff from inside of it, so all the gears and everything, just so I could sort of see how it works and stuff. Basically then I took those gears, which you can see in the model there, and then built this frame around it so I could have a working reel. Now it does work, but it's a bit janky and there's a few problems with it. This is the rod, so again for this project we're going to be revisiting this. Now when I did it for the A-level project, as you can see it's a two-piece rod, so we've got a little aluminium connection piece at the top up there. It's got proper eyes on it. I whipped those on with some epoxy and some cord, and then I also built this nice wooden handle which I really do like actually. And then we've got an aluminium butt cap again on the end. Now when I do this project this time, I'm going to aim for a one-piece rod. Alright, so basically the way this worked is there was a worm gear inside there, and then there's another gear which connects to it. So when you turn the handle, it translates that motion 90 degrees through the axis of the spool. This here was in place of a bail arm, so the line would just come off the spool around this roller and then down through the eyes. So there was no oscillation on the reel, which is obviously not ideal. And as you can see and probably hear, it is very janky and clunky. Sometimes the gears don't mesh together properly and then the spool just doesn't turn at all. Today we're going to be cracking on with the bamboo rod project. We're going to be building on what we did yesterday, which was basically just a bit of a mess around trying to work out how to straighten out this stave of bamboo. I did a little bit of extra research last night, and basically using heat to bend it over a jig, so I'll be using blocks of wood like this to basically get rid of the bends and the kinks and the twist in the stave. Okay, so we're back in the shed today and we're going to be continuing with the bamboo rod project. So we've got the blank down there behind us. This project has changed quite a lot since the original sort of idea. We hit a few snags along the road. Obviously we've got the A-level project that we did as well, and there was a lot of good things about that, but there's also some bad things. For example, the reel seat was probably the main one, which was the problem that I've run into on this one. Now, because in the meantime of doing this project, I've also been working on the rod prototype, which I had to order a reel seat and things like that for. I sort of paused on this project a little bit, and it gave us a little sort of time to rethink really. This bamboo rod project is going to be a series of videos, this first one of which is basically going to be working with the bamboo as a blank material, trying to figure out all the little nooks and crannies of it and how we can do it in a one piece or a two piece configuration, how the material works in terms of the action of the rod, those sorts of things. In that case, the handle section and the design and the eyes and things like that, we don't really need to worry about too much. The main issue is trying to work with the bamboo as a blank material. And for that reason, I thought to myself, well, I've got this old broken rod. It wasn't my first carp rod. My first carp rod's in that tube, but it was sort of the first proper carp rod that I got myself when I sort of first started out properly carp fishing. And unfortunately, it did break. A bit longer than a year now. And it's just been sitting about. So I thought to myself, well, what I'll do is I'll sort of salvage a few of the bits and bobs from that rod, because I still had it, and use those components to basically build this first bamboo rod. So for this bamboo rod project, what we're going to do is use these pieces of material to basically build up a working, functioning little 6-foot rod, just to bring back a little bit of life into our old broken rod that we had. And the challenge is we're going to go try and catch fish with it. So that's going to be the challenge for this project. And then sort of in the next rod video, what we'll do is use what we've learned on working with the bamboo to try and build a proper nice sort of retro style bamboo fishing rod, almost like a split cane rod. It is quite a difficult material to work with, and there has been a learning curve to using the material, but we will get there. Alright, so down here we've got a few of the eyes and stuff from what I salvaged off of my old rod. So this was the big 50mm butt ring that we had. It was a lovely nice carp rod. It's discontinued now, they don't make it anymore. It was a Fox Warrior black rod, so it's really old. But yeah, so these are a handful of the eyes that we've got left over from that rod. Then we've got this, which is the handle section from that old rod that I salvaged. So I've literally, if you can see that there, I've just cut it off right on the end where the reel seat is. So we've got a reel seat for this rod now. We can use reels and stuff on it. Like the A-level project before, it was just a simple wood section because I bolted that reel that I made straight to it. So it had no reel seat, so I couldn't swap out for a proper reel or anything like that. And that was the main sort of inspiration that made me change to doing this first. So again, as we've spoke about, the plan is to use this project as a sort of learning curve to try and figure out exactly how we want the bamboo rod to work, in terms of the action and in terms of how we're going to use the bamboo as a material, which is very different to working with fiberglass or carbon fibre or anything like that. So what we're doing is using the vise to prop up the blank so that we can basically get access to where we want to put the eyes. I've done this already on the prototype, so I know what I'm doing. So basically what the plan is we're going to use some hot melt glue to position the eyes in place so we can work out exactly where we want them all. They'll be fixed in place. What I wish I'd done is bought some thinner braid, because the idea is you're supposed to use apparently nylon cord for the whipping in the rod, but when it's thick like this is quite a thick one, the whipping on proper rods is a much thinner braid, and that means that you get a much nicer wrapping around the rod eyes and you don't see each individual strand. But this is all we've got for now, so this is what we're going to have to use. And then again, the araldite, not exactly the epoxy that I'm supposed to be using, it does go sort of a weird sort of yellow, almost snot colour. It's not very nice, but it'll do the job for now. When we make future rods, we probably will have to get some proper clear epoxy in place of this, because this is pretty terrible. And again, thinner nylon thread instead of this thick stuff. But it'll do the job, so for today, that's what we're using. Okay, so We've got all the eyes stuck on with the hot melt glue, so they're all in position. So now what we need to do is tie them on with the cord, and then we can apply the epoxy and leave it to set. Okay, so here we are, we've got all the eyes attached, we've got all the whipping on. So now all we need to do is apply the epoxy, and then apply the epoxy on the end of the handle, stick the handle section on, and then we can leave it to dry, and the rod is pretty much finished. Okay, so here we are with the final rod. It's pretty much finished now. All we need to do is leave the epoxy to set. So we've got the whipping on the eyes, all epoxied in place. We've got the tip eye there, which is set with epoxy in the middle of the hollow shaft of bamboo. It's quite handy that the bamboo has got a hollow section because it fits very nicely in there. So working all the way down the rod, we've just got it hanging up now to dry, and then we've got it epoxied into the handle section there as well. So once this is dried, we can then use it and test it. We're going to go try and catch a fish on it tomorrow on the session, and yeah, hopefully we can get a bite on it and then just basically bring some life back to the old rod. So brilliant, let's leave this to dry and see if we can pinch a bite tomorrow. So we've got a bite on the bamboo rod. Fight's quite intense on the centre pin. Oh, he's not a bad one either. Right, let's see if we can get him in the net then. Lovely mirror. Here he is then, let's get him in. Oh, results. Fish number 2. This is a bit bigger as well, this one. It's a lovely fish. Caught on the bamboo rod, which we'll go through in a bit. Lovely stuff. Ah, splattered me in the face. This is the one we've just had out the margin. On the homemade bamboo rod, so it's an absolute result to catch one like this on that rod. It's an absolutely beautiful fish. So yeah, brilliant result that. Absolutely awesome. There's the fish that we had, a lovely mirror. So yeah, result. Now, as you've probably already seen, this is the bamboo rod that I've made. Now this is part of an ongoing project that I'm doing, because I want to obviously try and make a proper retro style bamboo rod. But this is the first experiment. So what I did is I used the handle section, including the reel seat, and the eyes from an old broken carp rod that I had. Now I caught loads of fish on that rod, but unfortunately it did break, and it's been sat around for ages, so I thought, well, I might as well use the parts. We have learnt a lot about working with the bamboo in this project, and I'll go more into detail about that later. But yeah, as you saw earlier, we had that one this morning, about 3 or 4 pound mirror. It was a beautiful fish, and that was just from the margin, caught on this rod. It was great fun using the centre pin, and it just basically brought some life back to this old rod. So it was nice to catch a fish with the old rod again, even if it's not the same as it used to be. But yeah, so that's a tribute to the old friend.